Uh, we are, just to sort of remind you, our event here is being recorded and will be available to you after this session is over. It goes out automatically a day afterwards. But would very much like for you to stay with us live today, in part because we are talking more to marketing. We're sort of aiming our message here more at marketing professionals than at sales or, some of the other departments that we more commonly speak with. What I'm hoping for is to get a fair number of questions, comments, interested, issues, whatever things that you want to have us talk about here, and we'll sort of group those if possible toward the end of the session here. Our session is 45 minutes today. I've planned about a half an hour of content, but as those of you who are on this call every month know, I tend to I can talk a lot. So I will try to restrain myself somewhat today, and I'll certainly stay within the boundaries of the context today, which is marketing. So, and obviously there's a lot that we can talk about with regard to marketing, and especially GoldMine, GoldMine-centric kinds of marketing. I've picked a few topics that I think are going to be of pretty broad interest or pretty broad importance to different kinds of GoldMine users, or to all of, I should say, the different kinds of GoldMine users. And by doing that, in a way, it might turn out to be in some parts a little shallower than you want. So I'm not planning to get very technical on this, but I do want to show you some ways in particular that using MasterMine you can enhance or get sort of build upon the functionality that's already in GoldMine. And I think that's an important thing, of course, for MasterMine users to be able to do. So what I'm going to do is jump right in and show you the agenda. What I'm going to focus on is three areas, really. Market segmentation, which is really, and a lot of that is MasterMine reporting, although I want to talk some about just what kinds of information and what to do with it. Email marketing, and here really I'm talking about the practicalities of it, about how you get those emails out the door and respond to the results. And then finally, reporting. And again, with just a half an hour to talk about this, we're not going to get a whole lot into the details of this. So if there are particular aspects that you really want us to cover, or you want me to build upon, please feel free, put your questions or your comments or your questions really into the questions tab of the GoToWebinar dialog that is on the right-hand side of your screen. And by the way, I've not mentioned this lately. To retract that dialog so that it's not actually covering up your screen, there's a little tab at the top left of the GoToMeeting dialog that allows you to extend it out a little bit so that you can actually do some, put your questions in, for example, or to click it to retract it down to just a single little strip on the side of the screen. So be sure and don't miss anything visually here because of not knowing where to move that. Okay, so I'm going to jump right in and let's talk about market segmentation. So I'm going to switch over and give us a view of, that's the one we want. Okay, so give us a view of our famous GoldMine demo database here. Excuse me. So let's talk about market segmentation. Now, probably one of the biggest reasons that we created MasterMine originally was to make it easy for you to do market segmentation, by which, of course, we mean being able to take your database of prospects that presumably is contained inside of GoldMine, and do intelligent marketing things with it. And that starts by, obviously, knowing what you have, but also addressing the prospects that are in there in some kind of a methodical and hopefully focused, kind of market-focused way. So we see a lot of GoldMine using companies that they've got GoldMine, and they've got, of course, all their prospects in there, but there's not a lot of, what would I say, differentiation in the way they're their marketing messages go out. It's just one message for the whole audience, presumably all of the audience that's interested in a particular product. So you might have a field down here. Let's say you have a company, you've got 3 different products in it. You may have a field down here called product interest or something like that. That's one of the sort of standard GoldMine fields. And product interest might have 1, 2, or all 3 of your products listed there. And you know, if you send out a market related to product 1, send out a marketing piece related to product 1, then you just pick the ones that say product 1 in that field, and it's easy enough to sort of build a filter in GoldMine and send that out. What that does not allow you to do, though, is get down further into, you know, that's what would I say? That's a very simplistic approach to marketing, and it's one that all of the, you know, marketing gurus out there say is kind of a no-no, to be too blunt instrument about the way you do your marketing, and that it's better to be targeted to market your messages according to who it is that you're speaking with. And so I want to give you a couple of examples about how to do that. It starts typically, I think, with a report that pulls the information that is potentially interesting in terms of segmenting the database. Now, when I say segment, the sort of obvious ones are things like demographics. If you've got demographic information in GoldMine, you typically have that in fields down here under the Fields tab. If you don't have that information, shame on you, because it's one of the first ways to really set up GoldMine to get more information about who you're talking to. Now, it might be demographics if you're selling to the to end user consumers. It's more likely to be something called firmographics if you're selling to companies. You want to differentiate. There could be interesting or information that's important at the company level, at the firm level, which we call firmographics. Employee size, for example. You might have account type of you know, defined for your particular interest industry. Account potential, you know, those kinds of information. But then you can also have specific information that relates to the individual that's reflected in this record. Their birthday, their, you know, if that's relevant to your sale, their, you know, you name what it is, their shoe size. So there's firmographics, demographics, region and territory kinds of information. Of course, you're all familiar with, you know, the state and zip breakdowns here. Very easy, by the way, with MasterMine to do breakdowns, not just by the full 5-digit zip, but you could do them by the first 3 digits, or do them by the area code, or do them by, you know, whatever it is that makes the most sense within your market. So why break them down that way? Part of the reason is if you have the kind of sale that involves being physically present, then it makes a lot of sense to be able to do things like send out a special offer to area code 419 and some of the other area codes that are in a certain geographically identifiable district, and use that as a way to send, you know, one message on Monday because your people are going to be in, you know, in the neighborhood that day, and a different one on Tuesday because they'll be in that different neighborhood, and so on. In other words, I'm talking about relating your specific day-to-day marketing activity to the actual sales activity that's going to be following it up. Some other important information to pull might be past buying behavior. I rarely actually go in and see somebody's marketing program already set up, although often I wind up doing this for our customers, where they have taken past buying behavior into account in their marketing. Now they may have, they may do that by having, let's say, some fields down here in the Fields tab that are imported from their accounting system that shows here's what they bought from us 3 years ago, what they bought 2 years ago, what they bought last year, what they bought so far this year. You might have 4, you know, fields like that require them to import that information from the accounting system. I would suggest to you that there are some better ways to do that, and through MasterMine, and still get the benefit of being able to do that. Well, you know, we may want to have, you know, the best offers go, you know, or let's say one offer go to people who bought a lot from us last year, a different offer go to people who didn't buy a lot from us last year but did buy a lot in years before then, or whatever. That's, you know, you bring your own creativity to it. If you do that, we can help you to get to the actual, to actually home in on that part of the information. Where I was going with this a moment ago was to say you may have fields built in that you've imported data from, but many of you probably also know that GoldMine has the forecast and completed sale capability within the application itself. It's another reason to actually have people use forecasting information in GoldMine to support marketing. Not just to support the sales department, but to support marketing, so that if you've got forecasted sales under pending, then you know that here's somebody who probably needs to be treated a little bit differently than a raw, cold lead as far as marketing is concerned. Or if they've got past buying activity under history, the total quantity of that could easily be, actually there's a number of things that can be done. You can build your MasterMine report based on the past buying activity. So that from the report, as I'll demonstrate here in a moment, you can from the report you can home in on the groups and subgroups that you want to send your marketing to, based on the numbers that are under the history tab, without actually having to have contact level fields that have the dollars in there. And I'll just mention one other thing. With regard to that, you can bring those two things together. You can have under your fields tab, you can have, as I mentioned, some fields that indicate past buying behavior, but you don't necessarily have to populate that with information from the accounting system. You could actually use your MasterMine history report to bring in that information all together into logical organization in the Excel side, and then use your updater to actually push those numbers from history right into those fields and update them. And that will save you typically probably several $1,000s having somebody write you some kind of a special automatic query or batch process that pulls data from the accounting system over here into GoldMine. Because basically making a MasterMine report and doing updater is a faster, easier, simpler end user kind of process that doesn't require technical expertise. So all of that I'm sort of mentioning in concept, just because there's not time really to cover much of it more in detail. But there is one other area I want to cover as far as demographics and segmentation is concerned, and that is titles and job functions. You're already familiar with the fact that GoldMine has a title field in here, and what happens with titles typically is, I don't even actually have any lookups here, but what happens with titles is titles are given by the company, of course. So you might have dozens or hundreds of different possible titles in the database, but you're not going to market to titles. You usually want to market to job functions, which, to my way of thinking, are really groups of titles. So I'm going to give this as an example of just a way to sort of pull your data together easily. I'm going to create a MasterMine report that includes the title field. I'll grab some other stuff just in case I need it. So what I'm grabbing here is I'm getting the title. I've already got my state and my source, which are other important ones that I want to work with. But I also want to get some demographic fields, and again, those are going to tend to be toward the end of your list in MasterMine because those are user-defined fields. I think what I'll do actually is alphabetize these so I can more easily find what I want. And while I'm doing this, actually, let me point out one other thing that people don't often realize. If you right-click in your field list, you can tell this dialog when you sort the fields to sort them alphabetically, mixing up the contact 1 and contact 2, because maybe you don't really know which table they're in. You just know what the field label is on the in the display here. So what I want to grab here is, just so I've got them, I'll grab a firmographic field like employee size, and I'll grab a demographic field like birthday. I don't actually know if I've got some data in there, but they're easy enough to find now because they're alphabetical. In fact, I know I don't have birthdays. So I think I've got demo date though, so I'm going to grab that, and I'll grab the employee size. And here they are again, nicely alphabetical. And by the way, they're only alphabetical. The ones that are not checked on yet become alphabetized. All the rest of them stay up at the front of the list, already checked on. And let's go for marketing. Or you might call this, your market segmentation report or whatever it's going to be. Hit the finish button. And our report is done. Open it up. Okay, so now the typical segmentation, that should be a pretty straightforward thing for everybody. You know, here's our sources, here's our lead sources, and here's our account managers. And, you know, that is in a sense a one-by-one table that gives me segmentation, or maybe more likely for demographic or firmographic purposes, the industry that they're in. I'm not going to go into the details right now because I've bored you with this in the past about pulling together different values for different versions of single values, but I'm just going to do this so it's visually a little easier to work with. Get our engineers together and our spellings of the word aviation and throw flying in there with a control click. Now, of course, I could go in and fix the database. We won't go into the updater aspects of this right now. Oops, there's one that's missing from, so I'll add this to the group. These are all functions on your MasterMine toolbars now. Okay, so now I'm going to roll up aviation engineer, get rid of the detail, and voila, I have a nice, somewhat cleaner, easier to work with subset of my data that I now can attack this with. For marketing segmentation, there's part of it is, you know, getting to the just knowing what it is that you have, and then secondly, getting to the point of actually exporting the data or using it to send out marketing materials. And actually, I want to get to that here fairly quickly. Let me just pull together. I think what I'll do here is I'll pull together some segments. Oh, I'm sorry. Before I did that part, I actually wanted to talk about the titles, grouping of titles. So here's all the different titles that we have in here, and there's going to be a lot of them. In your own database, you probably have quite a few of them too. For a project that we did sort of toward the end of the last year, we wanted to be able to do marketing to personas. For those of you who do content marketing, you're probably well familiar with the idea of identifying who the target persona is that you're speaking to with your marketing piece. It makes it a lot easier to write a marketing piece if you have someone in mind who is the archetype or the sort of typical person that you would be sending a certain message to. So we created from our own database of people that we sell MasterMine to. We created two personae. One of them called Doris Data Digger, and another called that we called Roger. I forgot what Roger's name was, but he was the sort of the decision maker without actually being a GoldMine hands-on person. And the reason we created those two personas was so that we could do things like go into our database and group by title who was a likely member of one of those two different groups, so that we could send one message to the Doris Data Digger persona, and a different message to the Roger Revenue Man. That was his name, Roger Revenue Man, the decision maker kind of a person, or the executive kind of person. What we were using was the search field content functionality. So we took our own database, we put the title field in the row area here, and then we actually went through and looked for every place that we had, let's say, VP, or the word vice, or the word prez, or or the word, you could come up with a whole bunch of different examples, director, or executive something, that kind of thing. And with that, basically have it pull together our Roger group, and essentially have it search through all of our titles, find all the ones that had some version of that information in there, and then, whoops. Oh, you know what? I think I left a comma in there when I ran this, so I wound up adding all of them to my group. Very quickly, VP, Vice. I think this will get the point across. Oh. Okay, there we go. So that pulls together all the VP and so on people, and then we did another search over here on other titles and actually wound up getting several different groups. But the result of that is by doing this sort of active interaction with the data, the point of it is that you can wind up with, instead of dozens or even hundreds or thousands of titles in your database, you can actually get this down to a manageable set. Here's Doris Data User. So obviously you would go through a number of more iterations to get down to the actual data that you were after. But the result of that is you get your market segments that you can then work with. Then, and at that point, that's where you go over, create a GoldMine group, quickly illustrate that, double click on the 196 there. These are our Doris Data users. Make a group on the, over here on the MasterMine drill down, make a GoldMine group of the ones that you're looking at, or you could even go in here and do some additional filtering on this side before you do it. You might go in here and say, listen, I only want the ones that have a high score of probability to sell to, because those are the ones I'm going to send an expensive gift to. And as you can see, that hides the rows of the ones that don't have that value. And then we just choose to build a GoldMine group for these, and this will be our Doris Data User. Becomes the name of our group. Once you've done that, then you can track, and this is a really important thing that I wind up lecturing people on a lot, and to some extent it gets followed, I think. You track the same group over time. And how do you track a group over a length of time for what they buy from you and so on? Well, one important way to do that is to have that group on the GoldMine side and use that group as the basis for reporting. So later on, when you want to know, well, how much did we sell to the Doris data group since a certain date, you can easily go in here and choose history, choose sale, and then the tricky part is what's coming up here that not everyone knows about. You might choose a certain date, like start with the date of the time that you actually started that promotion going. But then go over to the filter side, hit the filter tab, and choose that group that we just now created that was called Doris Data User. And we'll see her right in here alphabetically. And then this report becomes History Activities Sale for Doris Data User. That's the default name for it. Now I might want to call this just, Sales Tracking for Doris Data User. And that now will give me all the sales for that group from the starting date that I put in there, presumably the marketing activity that I did to kick off this campaign. So that's a way of enhancing, and as you can see, there's, as I'm sure those of you who are really avid MasterMine users know, you can lay this out many different ways, but that's kind of the bare bones for tracking tracking groups over time, and essentially being able to know, what was the effect of this and that campaign in terms of, actual sales, or in terms of, one other area I like to go with this is doing analysis of the actual calling that was done, the follow-up calling by our sales reps based on the marketing activity that was done, or based on people's response to our marketing, all of that stuff. So adding this kind of intelligence to your marketing activity is what I'm really aiming for. Okay, so that was demographics as well as some actual activity there as far as doing reporting. I actually did want to put up a poll on email marketing, and let me add this in here because the next section that we're going to talk about here is this one here. So I'm going to put up this poll, and what it really asks you is, do you use an outside service for email marketing? Now, many of you are, hopefully those of you who are on the phone are for the most part marketing people, although you might, or you're involved some way with marketing, either supporting other people using it, whatever it is. And the question is, do you use an outside service for email marketing? So in other words, most often what that involves is either uploading a list to Constant Contact, or working, even if you've got the latest version of GoldMine, you know that you actually have some integration between GoldMine and Constant Contact. Or if you're familiar with IntelliClick, I actually did want to show you. I'm going to show you a little uh, poll, or sorry, a little bit of information about IntelliClick here as well. We got answers from about 2/3 of you so far. There we go, getting a little bit further along. And after we get the answers on this, what I want to point out is a couple of things. GoldMine integration with Constant Contact. It is in the latest version of GoldMine, what they call version 2013. It is a nice, somewhat easier way, if you're already working with Constant Contact, to take advantage of the information that you have in GoldMine and actually have some of the resulting information that you get flow back to GoldMine. And that is a huge value. When you go and send out emails, or and this is presuming that you do email marketing at all, when you go and send out emails, typically it's a rather one-way process. You're trying to sort of coax people to come to a website. You're trying to get them to respond in some way to indicate some interest so that you can follow up with sales, whatever it is. But it's sort of a one-way thing, because you may be able to gather information, especially if you use Constant Contact, to know who opened the email, but you don't really know much beyond that. I'm going to go ahead, and we've got just about everybody who's going to vote so far who's going to. So I'm going to hit close the poll. And so it looks like about 20% of you do not use an outside service at all. I probably should have asked something in there about do you want to, but not do so because it's inconvenient. So there's no, you don't use it. 20% is 1 in 5. A third of you use Constant Contact. I didn't get any yeses on IntelliClick, and about half say yes, they use some other outside service. So that might be a good time for me to bring up just a quick thing. I'm not going to try to sell you IntelliClick here, but I do want you to know about what IntelliClick does. And I created this visual here some time ago as a way to illustrate the value, or the importance, and the value of incorporating email marketing into how you use GoldMine. So what you're seeing here is this screen basically is an illustration that I came up with, showing what you can do with with GoldMine, and to some degree also with Constant Contact or any of those outside services, where you take information out of GoldMine, and again, it tends to be kind of a one-way thing. You take information out of GoldMine, you upload it to a service that is web-based, and then from there, emails get sent out, and hopefully, if you're lucky, some of those emails will be replied to directly by somebody who's interested in buying from you or working with you, or they might click on a link in your email and go to your web pages, maybe fill out your web form, and through that you hear about that they're interested in what you're doing. And that's nice. That's a big advantage over how things used to be when you sent out letters in the mail and had no idea even if anybody opened them. But what's happened technologically is that it's now possible, and again, this happens mainly, I know that it happens with Constant Contact actually automatically, kind of automatically with some setup, that if somebody opts out from your mailing, or they actually open your email, or it's undeliverable, that information can find its way back into GoldMine without any special extra activity. It used to be, and for those of you who don't have the latest version of GoldMine, you probably know, there's all you can do is download a list from Constant Contact, and then you have to somehow manage that list, take that list and manually update GoldMine as a result of it. Well, that's not true anymore for the latest version of GoldMine. There actually is a one-by-one kind of updating of GoldMine, and that can be extremely helpful, especially with opt-outs and the need not to, to be sending emails, the legal need not to be sending emails to people who specifically say you should not do that. Now, what has become increasingly possible, and what I'm getting at is IntelliClick is a third-party application. Please ask us about it if you'd like to know more about it, because it is very helpful. But it's provided by another another company that we partner with, that also will track additional activity, and all of this automatically finds its way back into GoldMine for you. So you send out an email, somebody clicks on a link in your email. When they click on that link, that can be recorded straight back into GoldMine. When they go to your website, if the link takes them to the website, or even if they have done that and then subsequently come back to your website, it can also track where they go to on your, the fact that they arrived at your website, as well as where they go within your website, all the pages that they navigate to. And each time they click, going from one page to another on your website, that also can create an item inside of GoldMine that can be tracked. Now, obviously, as I'm saying this, you're probably thinking this creates a lot of information inside of GoldMine. I hope this isn't going to overwhelm us. It doesn't need to overwhelm you, because everybody on this call is a MasterMine user. There are, in fact, in MasterMine toolkits built in that just for coping with the large amount of information that you'll get from IntelliClick, and that really make it a very effective way of broadening out your marketing capabilities from GoldMine. I added this other one in here too. As these activities happen, one of the things that you can set up again with IntelliClick is when something happens, when you get certain responses, when somebody, let's say, clicks on a link and goes to your web page, you can have it set up so that when they do that and the notice comes back into your GoldMine indicating that someone clicked on that page in your email, or a certain number of times, or with some parameters, it can actually schedule things for you. Schedule literature to go out, schedule calls or appointments for the salespeople based on amount of activity, and all of this can be very automatic. This is the last thing. This is the last little part of this IntelliClick thing. What I'm illustrating here is that the way I think of IntelliClick is that it goes out and it incorporates all of that email activity, all of your website and your web forms and your web activity, brings it all back and makes it a part of GoldMine almost. It, in effect, makes your GoldMine be a far more capable at reaching out, but also knowing what happened as a result of reaching out through email and your website. Okay, so it's a little. If you have any questions about IntelliClick, or would like to see a demo of it, or see us, talk more about this another time, please feel free to let us know about that or put a question in. I'm going to switch back.
Really quick, Rob, on the subject of email marketing and email addresses. Jessica posted a question, or sorry, Jessa, sorry. Is there a way to automatically add new GoldMine email addresses / contacts to lists in Constant Contact?
To automatically add new ones in Constant Contact, are we talking about on, did she say whether it was the current version of GoldMine?
She did not say.
Let's assume that that's what we're talking about, because if it's the earlier versions, there actually is no formal link between GoldMine and Constant Contact. And actually, let me do this. I'm going to answer this a little more broadly. New email addresses and new addresses and such can all be uploaded into Constant Contact, whether you have the latest version or not, by essentially building a quick MasterMine report that shows you the new ones, and that's an easy thing to do because they're all dated. Email addresses, email records in GoldMine are dated. So if you wanted to, let's say, choose all the ones that are new since a certain date or updated since a certain date, it's very easy to do a short MasterMine report that will isolate those. And of course, it's already in Excel, and Excel lists are easy to update, upload into Constant Contact, just using the regular, web interface that Constant Contact provides. And the way and essentially, if I recall with Constant Contact specifically, when you upload a list, you can either create a new list with its own name, or you can add them to an existing one. I'm pretty sure that's the way Constant Contact works. I'm a little bit outdated on it. When you add those in there, you are in effect making those available to be used, to be selected as a set of source lists for whatever email piece that you're sending out. So by having the, all you need to do is make sure that they're up there, and then you can send them out. By the way, you probably also know that Constant Contact and most services also keep track of your opt-outs at the up on the web, and they may not necessarily let you know back on the GoldMine side that they opted out, but the opt-out is kind of hard on the web end, so that even if you tried to send out another email to somebody who had opted out on you, it wouldn't allow you to do that. I hope that answered her question and maybe a little bit more. Are there any other questions, Carnegie, that I need to go to before I kind of throw it out for?
Just replied back stating, yes, we are currently adding the new ones with Excel sheets. Just wondering if it was something that could be automated. Thank you.
Oh, I see. Yeah, there is. It's not automated to the extent that you can hit a button and have it say, just upload them. You still will have to take the steps of using your MasterMine to isolate which ones are new and put them up there. And by the way, that's actually a pretty good illustration of one way in which working with IntelliClick is superior to Constant Contact, because there is no transferring of emails and addresses everywhere. The GoldMine database is the actual database from which everything is sent. So there is no back and forth and no uploading and downloading and having information in two different places, which I know marketing people that consumes a large part of their time, just shifting list parts here and there, putting them up on the web, trying to get the results of their marketing activity and get that back down into the GoldMine or whatever their local database is. With IntelliClick, all of that is integrated. A new email address, somebody adds a new email address into the database, boom, it's in the database. That's because that is the source database for where you send your emails from. Just a good example where removing some moving parts out of something and making it simpler really can save you a lot of time. Any other questions or comments? So what I want to do is, at this point, we've just got a few minutes left. I want to offer you the opportunity to add your questions and comments, and again, not necessarily questions about what did I say, or things that I necessarily can answer right away, but topics that you're interested in having us cover in relation to marketing are welcome right there. If not, I might just finish off here with a lecture on lead source analysis. Go ahead.
There is a question. I don't really think it handles with marketing. We might answer it after you go through your little spiel. But I want to make you aware there is one out there.
Go ahead. Actually, go ahead with it.
Can you go into more detail about how you can use MasterMine to tie in sales data from ERP to GoldMine without an integration?
Ah, okay. Yeah. I started to go into that, and right, I sort of cut myself off there. So integrating sales data with GoldMine without actually building an integrating piece of software. The very clever way that GoldMine arranged to do that, that I have not seen done very well in other CRM systems, is through the GM plus View tab. So the GM plus View tab is actually, I'm going to mention two things. I'm going to go do the GM plus View thing, but I want to talk about doing MasterMine reporting that spans your systems as well. So Carnegie, don't let me forget the second. So GM plus View is actually all it really is a web browser inside of GoldMine. But it's a sort of a programmable web browser, a very nice one that allows you to set up scripts, or allows your GoldMine dealer to set up scripts for you. Don't be afraid if you're not actually programmers yourselves to have somebody set this up for you, because it's really quite easy and efficient. And where, for example, you could create a window in here that would show you. I hope I've got an example of it here. Let's see, Hoover's history view. I was hoping that I had it here. I may be able to come up with it with something that looks like it. No, not very well. Sorry. But what you can have here is simply what it is a lookup to your accounting system. So even within your network, it's let's say your accounting system is on the same SQL server that GoldMine's on, or is on a different one, but it's at least ODBC compliant, so therefore the database is queryable. What the script can do in here is essentially, based on the record you're looking at in GoldMine, run this script, go out to your, let's say, your accounting system, pull back a list of all the open orders, all of the past orders, and not just a list, but a summary of that information, laid out in whatever way you like to do. It's done with HTML, so it can look very nice, and it's immediate. It's not like it has to go and run something and 10 minutes later give you the answer. It's immediate, so it looks as though that information is in GoldMine, even though no data has actually been transferred from one database to the other. That's the ideal way, I think, to include the information in your reports. Now, in GoldMine. But the downside of doing it that way is the information's not available to you in your normal GoldMine reports. It's off there in your accounting system. So but you've got MasterMine. So with MasterMine, we can actually make it so that the reports that you've got that read the information from GoldMine can be expanded. The query itself can be expanded to pull from two different data sources, link them together logically, and present them inside your MasterMine report as though they really were both in one database. You don't need to concern yourself with the back end mechanics of it, but as far as the way you're looking at it, it's as though it were all in one place, and that's the really cool and in many ways necessary thing to do that allows you to bring that information together. By the way, if you do that, if you do a MasterMine report that spans your accounting system as well as your GoldMine, then that brings the information into Excel. And again, those of you who know Updater know that you could take that information from the MasterMine Excel report and actually put some of it, summarized or in detail, into fields using Updater, again, without having to have an external application that batch processes data and moves it back and forth between the tables, between the databases. So that was an even better question than the one that I intended to answer, although I will go to we'll use my last minute here to talk about that, where I was going to go, which is lead source analysis. And in effect, all I'm going to do is move a couple of fields here and there to give you the result for that. So this is what I would call a sort of a lead source analysis report. This was the report that I created that had completed sales. Now we may want to leave off the unsuccessful ones and only look at the successful ones. That would give us visually a simpler thing. And successful means, of course, closed sales. And with a couple of additional tweaks, you could basically have this give you, for a given time period or a given demographic segment, or again, in this case, we took only the Doris data users, the ones in those groups, to tell us how many sales did we get from each one of our data sources, our lead sources, how many sales did we get, what's the total units we sold, what are the dollar amounts, and then, of course, give you the ability to roll those down. Let's say, show us the individual companies that we sold to within that. So roll up, I like to have these sort of dynamic roll up, roll downs that allow me to ask that further question. Okay, we've got that many sales from magazine ads. Who actually were the people who bought that, so that we can, do our activity. That's the appropriate follow-up from that. Okay, well, we've burned through another 3/4 of an hour, and unlike the guys on Car Talk, I'm going to say you did not waste your time. At least I hope you didn't. If there are any other questions, I'm going to stay on and go ahead and answer those for now. But feel free also, of course, to email me. I'm going to put up my slide here so that you've got so that you can see my email address and phone number. And I believe we have our monthly drawing as well, Carnegie. If you've got if you're ready to do that now. Forgot to mention that to you beforehand, so I wasn't sure. Let me put up the slide here. There we go. Okay, so once again, the attendee drawing, and now this, I did not change the date on here, so you actually don't have to use this by February 28th. You have to use it by March 31st. You get a 1-hour free consultation by being here on the end user meeting and having stayed on through all of my talking through the whole thing. The consultation, the 1 hour is basically an hour of my time to help you do, anything presumably related to GoldMine and MasterMine. But hopefully some of what I've talked about today will have kicked off some, some interest in tracking into some of this stuff a little bit further. You've got my name, my number there. Just in case you are not the winner, you are welcome to also request a free 1 hour, or excuse me, request a 1 hour consultation, but it won't be free. But some of it will be. If you want to talk more about IntelliClick or that kind of stuff, of course, I'll talk about that for free to just help you make a good decision about whether you ought to use it. Okay, Carnegie, ready for the drawing of our big winner.
Let's do this.
Okay, drum roll, please.
And the winner is Cody Brooks.
Cody Brooks. Okay, congratulations, Cody. Schedule, if you would. You can call my number there, or you can call that same toll-free number, or send an email rather to Carnegie, CARNEGY, at mastermind.net, and let her know when would be convenient for you to do your 1 hour. Also, again, anyone else on this call who wants some further help with any of the topics that we talked about here, you know where to find us. And if they're short questions, of course, we will just answer them. If we actually get into doing some work with you on your mastermind, then we'll go into your support units. Okay, thank you all once again. Thank you, Carnegie, for the hilarious introduction, and actually, I'll check one last time. Are there any questions that have come up on the dialogue there?
There are not.
There are not. Okay, great. Well, thanks everybody for your time, and we'll look forward to seeing you here again next month.